recorded live.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Notes from the Ghostwriter. Tonight, I'd like to tell you, first of all about another wonderful historic haunted location. And the one I've chosen tonight is from a great site called theshadowlands.net, which lists a lot of haunted locations right through the United States. For tonight, I've chosen to talk about Atlanta. These ghost reports are pretty amazing. I hope you enjoy them as much as I did. Atlanta, Dunwoody Brook Run. In the back of the park is a gated-off area. When inside, go down the road and go in the building on the right. There's a huge abandoned building that was a home for the mentally challenged. There are various areas with temperature changes, an extremely strange aura to the place, and pictures will reveal orbs, cold spots on the first and second floor. There are footsteps heard, doors open and close, and there are banging sounds on the walls. The most haunted is the third floor. Many believe a little boy haunts it. Now, there is a warning on this website that people shouldn't just go gallivanting off into a lot of these buildings that are mentioned here because there is strict no trespassing and so on. So anybody who's interested in ghost hunting, please make sure that it's okay to go onto property if you do so. Again, in Atlanta, there's the Fox Building. The face of a Confederate private has been photographed in a window. The Hi-Fi Buys Amphitheater. Years ago, a rock singer was killed on stage by a gunshot that came from the stadium. His spirit still walks through the seating area. Some have said that you can feel his hand on your neck. The Masquerade. After-hours people have spotted the ghost of a tall black man wandering around inside the club. Heavy music amplifiers are found turned upside down. Also, unexplained footsteps, cold spots, and unearthly screams are heard around the back stairs. The nightclub is rumored to be frequented by true vampires. It is said that a vampire actually lives on the premises. The building was once a textile mill where several young girls died in accidents and others developed tuberculosis because of the dangerous working conditions. Shrieks, footsteps, and other noises are frequently heard during non-business hours on the back stairs, where cold spots are often felt as well. The building has been the site of a number of freak accidents, including fire and structural collapses. Metropolitan Avenue. There's a bridge right over Metropolitan Avenue by University Street. It's said that a young lady in a white dress stands under the bridge looking for a ride home. When one picks the woman up and takes her home, she gets out of the car and says thanks for the ride. Then she vanishes in thin air. Most people that pick this young lady up usually go to the door of the young woman's house to make sure she made it in or where she went to. But when the door opens, it is the woman's mother, and she tells the people that every year someone comes to the house to drop off her daughter. The girl is her daughter, who had been killed in a horrible car accident 10 years ago under a bridge on Metropolitan Street, formerly known as Stewart Avenue. And we'll do a couple more also in Atlanta. Oakland Cemetery. This cemetery is the resting place for 3,000 to 4,500 Confederate soldiers that died during Sherman's invasion of Atlanta. In one section of the cemetery is a statue of a large wounded lion in honor of the unknown Confederate soldier. People hear a disembodied voice giving the roll call of dead, somberly calling out the names of long-dead soldiers. The Shakespeare Tavern. During a production of Henry IV, Part 1 in 1993, the actor playing Falstaff suddenly came from the men's dressing room, very shaken. He had seen a very young boy dressed in a velvet suit, much like children wore in the 1800s, beside his dressing table. Others have seen passing images and odd lights over the years. Sometimes when the theater is pretty much deserted, voices will be heard, as if a group is meeting together. There is a room in the top level of the building that sensitive people will not enter because it is clammy and the energy feels terrible in there. An old man has been spotted on a couple of occasions. A female energy once warned of a fire and sometimes upsets things in the women's dressing room. Occasionally a shadowy figure can be seen on the catwalk above the stage. Okay, I'm not going there. We'll do one more. Atlanta, Six Flags. People have seen a little girl wandering around pretending like she is lost. If you follow her, she will lead you so far into the woods you won't be able to find your way back. Then you will turn around and she will vanish. So those are some of the interesting ghostly spots in Atlanta. And as we go on week by week, we'll be discussing various cities. Rob, are you with us this evening?
Yeah, I'm here.
How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing good. I have two things to say. One is, I named one of my dogs after Falstaff. I find that interesting.
Oh.
And two, that girl, I know I dated her because she kept on disappearing on me. Every time I went to open the door, she was gone.
Really? Oh, my goodness. Were there cold spots and so on?
Yeah. It's like, holy man, the mothers. Now, I don't even want to talk about the mothers.
Actually, I've heard various versions of that legend, so it's probably happened probably more than once.
Oh, my God, that's funny.
Various cities.
Oh.
That was in what city, Rob?
Yeah, Atlanta.
Oh, poor thing. It sounds pretty scary. Anyway, yeah, that's almost like an urban legend, I think, that one, but it must have started somewhere, so they usually have a grain of truth to them. It's I'd be pretty scared.
Hello.
It's really interesting, though. I like all these stories, and we have Brittany on the line too. Hi, Brittany.
Hello.
Hi, Brittany. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Actually, I think I've heard the same one. There's a show called Are You Afraid of the Dark on Nickelodeon I used to watch when I was a kid, and they had the same story.
Is that right?
Yeah. I remember that story. It's funny.
Pretty common one then, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much research has been done to actually verify all these stories, but one day when I have time, I'd like to actually go through all these things that I'm mentioning and see what kind of corroborating evidence we can find. It would be fun. Of course, the Civil War cemetery, the Oakland Cemetery, that one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you never hear about the soldiers from the north that died and were buried there too. It's always funny about that.
That's true too. Yeah. Well, I wonder if they're still very political on the other side.
Yeah, probably somewhat.
Anyway, for tonight, because it was John Lennon's birthday this week, I thought we would talk about John Lennon's spirit and some of the reports that have been around for actually many years, actually, since his death, about whether he's been able to communicate or not with the living. Apparently, he had a pact with his first wife. He was very much a believer in the paranormal and the afterlife, as well as being quite the mystic. And he had a pact with his wife that if he could, once he crossed, whoever crossed over first would try to contact the other, and of course, the other Beatles, and so on and so forth. Now, there's been nothing conclusive, apparently, in terms of whether he's actually been able to contact anyone, but there are many, many reports of people having seen his spirit or having otherwise contacted him. As a matter of fact, there was a show on, I'm just trying to remember the name of it, a seance in 2006. I think it was called The Spirit of John Lennon. It was originally done, I think, by the BBC for pay-per-view, and they rounded up psychics and so on from around the world, I believe, to try to contact his spirit. I really enjoyed watching the show myself, but I didn't find a lot of it very conclusive, except there was one EVP recording that some of the channelers had made, and in that you could pretty clearly hear a voice saying, I think it was peace is peace. So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah,
I've got some... I remember back, actually, I think it was like 95. It wasn't that long ago when Sir Paul McCartney and actually Ringo Starr and George Harrison were still alive. George Harrison was still alive, rather. And they were doing some recording. And there was like "Free as a Bird" was the song that they were singing, and there was a white peacock at the window.
Yes.
And this was like a big famous thing because, like, Paul said, "That's John, spooky, eh?" And I can't do his voice, but and they all got chills, and they all talked about that later on. And I think Larry King, they actually had a conversation about it.
That's fascinating because I was recently reading that one of the signs that he had with Cynthia was feathers.
Yeah.
So, the bird, I mean, obviously that would be feathers. That's fascinating because what I've been reading is that Paul actually says he's never had contact with John. And of course, it depends, like who you're reading and what their
is. It's also when they're talking. I mean, now I'm sure he's not saying anything about that, but that was a big story back then. I mean, they really felt it. And Robin, for whatever reason, Robin Givens, the actress, actually said she had a visitation from John Lennon.
That's right. She apparently bought a house that he used to own.
Oh, is that what the reason was? I never could understand that, but yeah.
I can give you the exact information on that. It's right here. There was a story in the Northwest Herald, which is a newspaper in Crystal Lake, Illinois, and the year is unknown, but it's probably not too long ago. This is a little news report from then. It's called, the title is John Lennon's Ghost Haunts New Home of Robin Givens. Actress Robin Givens said she recently discovered that her $1.9 million home overlooking Hollywood and Beverly Hills has a feature she never dreamed of, the ghost of former resident John Lennon. According to the Boston Herald, Ms. Givens, who bought the home soon after her divorce settlement with heavyweight champion Mike Tyson, said, John stayed in this house when the Beatles were on the West Coast. I remember the first time I was wakened by the sound of a man singing and wondered what was going on. I got up and looked around and suddenly realized it was John Lennon's voice, so I went back to bed. The actress said there's no need to send for an exorcist to have the ghost expelled from her home because she doesn't mind sharing her space with such a friendly and talented spirit.
Yeah, that's good. And to be even wilder, we have Simone out in Italy, from a road we travel, and she's doing, a walking tour of Italy, and she's in Assisi. And they have a peace march. And, of course, what are they singing? They also give peace a chance. It's like all these Italian and Romanian and all these different people singing Give Peace a Chance in Italy. It's like, wow.
Isn't that something? Oh, that must be just so, I don't know, meaningful. Hear that in different languages. Oh, my goodness.
Hey, Brittany, did you ever sing any John Lennon songs?
Yeah, I like the song Blackbird.
Oh, yeah, I love Blackbird.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite songs.
Okay. And so maybe we can get you to sing that on your show. We're talking about Brittany putting together a nice little song for us for her show, which is Metaphysical Minute and Metaphysical Experience. So whenever you get a chance, go to sourcenewage.com and check out Brittany's show. See, I gave you a plug.
I would love to hear that, so you'll have to let me know when it's on as well.
Can I sing now?
Oh.
Go for it. I would love to hear it.
No, I just want to sing a little bit, not too much. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you're only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly. That's all I remember.
That's good enough for us. Hey, we got. I'm going to make a fortune with that.
That was great, Brittany. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I love that song
Brittany.
so much. I love that song. I used to play that all the time, like Faces,
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
I remember in March of '06, they did that TV seance to reach John Lennon. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yes.
That was pretty wild. These people got together and decided to have a seance. One of the TV shows, and I'm not sure which one, decided this is a great idea for it to show. And it had great press, though. I mean, it was on everywhere, from the Wall Street Journal to everyone was talking about it. And it was, I think it was pay per view. You had to pay to watch it.
I wonder if it's not the same one that I'm talking about. You know, I don't really remember the seance part very well. Did they have any measurable results with that?
Well, a lot of people say it was a hoax, and later on there was like all this proof that it was a hoax. But I would imagine so. I mean, you know, seances, if they're not done quiet, they don't get anywhere. I don't think. And when the more publicity they get, the harder it is for people to really get in contact. You know.
I wonder about that. I really do. I've never had a lot of luck doing seances myself, but I know people who have said they've been very successful. So I don't know. I'm not sure that spirits are always ready to just pop in whenever they're called.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly it. If they're not around, how are they going to hear you? Why is it different? You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But,
you know, I haven't heard in any of these stories where John Lennon has gone on stage and played anything, though. You know, like, what's that about? I mean, you know, the guy was a musician. You think he would want to play, you know?
Well, apparently he's very busy. Now, let me tell you something that has been reported about what he's doing on the other side. Now, he's a member of the Great White Brotherhood on the other side. And he says, actually, I'm just reading from an article written in 1988 by Bill Harry. Just one second. This is a channeling done by Bill Tenuto of San Diego, and the channeling is through his guide, who is a female spirit named Eleanor. Eleanor is English and was killed during an air raid in London in 1943. So John is speaking through Eleanor, and he claims that, first of all, he's still having sex on the other side. A lot of parties. His best friend on the other side is an American Indian woman. He's met, his mother is over there. He's met Jesus. Let's see now, who else? He's met a lot of famous Hollywood people, including Clark Gable and Carole Lombard. And this is what he says. I want to tell you, I really took to Carole Lombard. We are capable of having sex over here. We do the same thing that you do, except without the body. We love sex as much as anybody who's got a body. The sensations are a bit different, with an interplay of energies that take place when we have sex. We don't concern ourselves with Planned Parenthood, since spirits can't propagate a baby spirit. That almost sounds like something you would say. He also talks about, again through this same channel, he talks about his murder. And he says, and this is a quote, I had flashes in my skin, and then I was out. He admits to having contacted Yoko since his death and holds no rancor towards his killer, Mark Chapman, because his spirit was only evening up an old score. Lennon says, we had a past life together, and you might say I did something not too nice to him. I shot him in the back. John says he also remembers several previous incarnations. Directly before his birth in Liverpool, he was living in the southwest portion of China. And he says, I don't know what I was, a simple kind of person, perhaps a farmer or merchant, but not a very wealthy one. I died quite early on. He also says he's had a past life with Yoko. I was a very strict father to her, he says. She was rebellious and a resentful type of daughter. He is also in the League with the White Brotherhood, a group of highly advanced spirits who don't have to reincarnate anymore. So, yeah, apparently he's also apparently with John Wayne, Harry Truman, and Golda Meir. So, it's interesting. A lot of this stuff, it really sounds like it could be him talking.
Yep. Well, I'm going to take a second to give us a break now, Ken. This is Notes from a Ghostwriter, and it's part of the Source New Age Network. Hi, we're back from our break, and we're going back to talk about John Lennon and where he's at. But actually, I remember a lot of stuff. I was a big fan. Well, let me go beyond that. I was a crazy fan for the Beatles. I didn't really think anybody else existed. You know, I was not into the Rolling Stones. I was not into that. I
wasn't either.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah.
I remembered him very early on being into seances. He would go to them regularly. Matter of fact, just like Elvis had that seance thing going on, and I heard that they actually went to a seance together at one point. I don't know if there's any truth to that at all, but
I've read something about him and Elvis, so yes, I wouldn't be surprised.
And I remember a thing he used to say. I used to quote it like he used to say. And I want to make sure I get it right. I am an optimist about eternity. I believe there's life after death, and I believe death is not the end but a beginning. He used to say that a lot, and I used to say that a lot. Like, wow, you know.
Well, he was very, very metaphysical, definitely, no question about it.
Yep, sounds good.
I think that's one of the reasons he was so loved.
Yeah.
Actually, excuse me. I was just. Do you know about the flying saucer incident?
I don't think I do. No, go ahead.
If you go to my website, that's arcanamatrix.com, and click on the paranormal portal, you'll see articles called The Paranormal Insider, and I've got a big, long article in there that I researched about a year ago. When he and his secretary at the time, who he was actually having an affair with, he was separated from Yoko Ono at the time, they saw a flying saucer over their building, over the river, actually, in New York. And it was actually reported to by many, many people to the police that night that something was seen out there. They were taking pictures. One of his photographers, I think, had come up to visit at the same time when this happened, and took a whole roll of film, and apparently none of the film came out. But he even mentioned something on one of the liner notes for, I think it was the Walls and Bridges album at the time, about flying saucers. So he definitely did believe in paranormal and metaphysical.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and it's amazing how many people talk about it. And people, like, I don't know, there was the Dakota where he was shot.
Yes.
Had its mystical creation. If you ever saw when the Dakota was built, it's quite amazing because there is nothing around it. It's trees. There's a duck pond. There's a farm, and there's this huge building in the middle of nowhere. And there's some great illustrations. I don't even think there's photographs. I think they're illustrations of people ice skating on the pond, with this huge building in the background with nothing anywhere near it. And everyone is always like, why this big building and why so far north? That the city of New York wasn't even there yet. I mean, it was still in the 30s and 40s. I mean, so this is 20 blocks, 30, 40 blocks actually, about 40 blocks away from anything that was considered New York City. And
I didn't know that.
Huge building, and basically the person that paid for it, I can't remember his name, knew that it was a metaphysical place, and he wanted his building to be right on that specific spot. And that building itself has become the stories of many, many metaphysical things. Time and Again by Jack Finney is a book, and the book tells of the story of a 20th century man going back to the 1800s and falling in love. And actually, Christopher Reeve made a movie. And I don't remember what the movie was named, but it wasn't named Time and Again, but it was based on this. Mm-hmm. And it was this like murder mystery set in the past that this man goes into the Dakota. He does what basically is transcendental meditation and transforms because he's in a particular room, and he goes back in time. So it's like, holy mackerel, this is way before John Lennon's death that book was written.
Well, that's fascinating. Well, apparently Lennon thought he'd seen ghosts there too prior to his death.
Yeah, well, it would be a mecca, right?
Right.
It's a center. There are, when we talk about the path of life in Simone's podcast, we're talking about like pools of water that created a life all around the globe, right? It wasn't one pool, it was many pools, and we talk about like how the people of the time would travel from one pool to another, but obviously for source water, and so as the beginnings of humanity, right? Someone once told me that he believes that the Dakota is sitting on what was a pool, one of these pools where life originated on.
Is that right?
Yes, I get these stories all the time. I have nothing to confirm it, but it was very interesting.
That's fascinating.
I know it's on the road. It's on the path. It's directly on the path because the path goes up Fifth Avenue into Central Park, off over to the west side, and then up. And so I know it's on the path. I didn't know it was like one of the pools until recently. Somebody.
Right. Now, would you know if those pools would be connected at all to the ley lines that cross the earth?
Yeah, some of them are. Not all of them, though.
Are there any important ley lines in New York? You would know, being a New Yorker.
You're pretty much hidden at this point. I mean, one upon the other, and they're deep underneath the ground.
Right, right. That's
but the water mains that come into the city are part of the water mains that come into the city underground. They are.
They are part of the ley line system? They know that? Yep. Right?
Yep.
Oh, yep. That's fascinating.
Right.
Now, that would have been...
What's really fascinating is right now one of them is dry because they had to empty it to work on it, and I think they're going to make it into something else, but it's dry, and then people are walking in it, so it's pretty exciting.
Is that right?
Maybe you should explain what a ley line is for people that might not know.
Yes, well, I'm not exactly sure myself, but a ley line is a line of energy. They're very ancient. They, in Britain, for instance, many of the most important metaphysical sites are connected by ley lines underground. Stonehenge and the various sites, very important churches and so on, are connected by these lines of energy. And, it's... Of course, any kind of energy like that could be a portal for paranormal activity. And I'm just wondering whether the water systems as well, being as they are also a source of energy and negative ions and so forth, whether that would tie into ley lines at all.
Yeah, definitely. I always said that. And New York is a big, important area because one of the paths would come down from the north, and the people would be walking from Europe across the North Atlantic, which was solid, and you could walk across it, and then walk down the basic eastern seaboard and walk right into New York, whereas the bottom of Manhattan would then turn west to go to. There was a big central spot where religion started, and it was like in the Americas, and people don't want to believe that. They want to believe that there was no humans in America for, until, Christopher Columbus or whatever they were thinking. But humans, we haven't found all the bodies that are laid out in America, and that will show itself up to be true. But this is, an amazing. One person once did something for me. And actually did infrared photograph from a satellite for me. I worked for the military, and showed me the paths of life that basically overlaid over the American scene. And these were paths that you can't see now, but if you take an infrared photo of the Earth and look, down below the Earth's crust, you'll see these paths because they were so well worn at the time.
Oh, my goodness. Now, can those be still picked up at all on the surface, like by dowsing or pendulums or anything like that?
No, they can't. They are they've been hidden for so long. But Having said that, they're not very hard to find, and technical advancement is making it easier. I've seen these photos. I've actually seen a show on PBS that talked about this, and then it disappeared. I mean, people just don't want to talk about it. You know, there's this feeling that there's something that we don't want to know. It messes up our history line. You know.
Yeah, well, I think there's too much of that. I think we should definitely be talking about all this.
Exactly.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So are we kind of nearing the end of our show for tonight?
Yes, we are. Thank you, Brittany, for being on the show and singing for us.
No problem.
Thank you, Brittany. It was wonderful.
You're welcome. That was very interesting information. I was glad to be on the show.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here. Have a good night now.
Good night.
Everybody have a good night.
Rob, thank you very much.
Yep, no problem. And this is the Source New Age Network.
Good night.